Listening to what your homeboys mention. She's hot. Got a different man every day of the week. It's cool, not trying to put a rush on you. I gotta let you know that I got a crush on you. I know you see me on the video. I know you hear me on the radio. But you still don't pay me no attention. Listening to what your homeboys mention. She's hot. Got a different man every day of the week. It's cool, not trying to put a rush on you. I gotta let you know that I got a crush on you.
Hey. Okay, check one, check one, two. I think y'all can hear me now. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience and Artistic Associate here at San Diego Repertory Theater. Thank you for joining us for We Are Listening. As I get all these technical difficulties out of the way, first my microphone wasn't working, then my camera wasn't working, but here I am. Now y'all can see me. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Again, my name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience and Artistic Associate here at San Diego Repertory Theater. Welcome to We Are Listening. We have another great conversation for you tonight. And please let me introduce my co-host, Director of Arts Engagement and In-House Casting at La Jolla Playhouse, Jacole Kitchen. Jacole, what's up?
Hey, everybody. Hey, Ahmed. How's it going?
It's all good. It's all good. I finally got stuff to work here. Finally got the microphone and the camera to work. So, you know, we're doing all right.
We can see you. We can hear you. We are here. We are present. Yes.
Okay, good. Again, everybody, thank you for joining us. We have spectacular guests for you tonight. Just want to make sure that you have your camera off and your microphone muted. And if you have any questions or comments, whether you're watching here on Zoom or on Facebook, please just throw them in the chat. We'll make sure we get them and we'll talk about them, ask the questions and all that good stuff. But again, thank you for joining us. This is our bi-weekly celebration of Black artists, creatives, administrators, and workers in performing arts. Thank you for joining us. We are not the other. We are the standard as well. So thank you for being here with us. We've got a great conversation for you. But first and foremost, let me turn it over to Jacole. Jacole, let me know what's going on. Let everybody know what's going on over around the Playhouse way.
Yeah, La Jolla Playhouse is coming back live. Still lots of digital programming to enjoy from our Digital Wow series, but so excited to be talking about things coming back live and in person. In July, we're bringing back our DNA New Work series that is going to be happening at La Jolla Playhouse, July 27th through 31st. 4 brand new plays that are in development that are being worked with us that weekend. So excited to present them to you. More information coming on the website soon. But also so excited to be talking about August coming back to Liberty Station with a pop-up wow. It is a very small condensed version of what we're used to with our Without Walls Festival, but it will be featuring all local artists doing site-specific devised work there in Liberty Station. And then that is August 14th and 15th. And then in September, we start our season, starting La Jolla Playhouse season with The Garden. We are doing a 3-show season this year. So starting with The Garden by Charlene Woodard, directed by San Diego's own Patricia McGregor. Followed up by To the Yellow House by Kimber Lee, directed by Neil Keller. And rounding out our season with the big musical extravaganza Bangin' It by Mike Liu and Rahana Lou Mercer, directed by Amy Corcoran. So excited. It's a small but very, very mighty season. So excited to be coming back live. Ahmed, what's going on over at the Rep and at the Globe?
Yeah, so I want to send you guys over to the Globe. If you don't know, now you will know that We Are Listening is produced by San Diego Repertory Theater in partnership with La Jolla Playhouse and the Globe. They have a lot of great stuff happening over at the Globe. I invite you to head over to their website at theoldglobe.org. Make sure you check out their Hamlet on the Radio that is still running, I believe. I think it is on here. No, that's not it. You know what? I won't be able to find it because I'm all miscombobulated right now in the web world. But head on over to theoldglobe.org and check out everything that they got going on for you. And then don't forget to visit our website at sdrep.org. We got a lot going on as well. Right now, we are streaming The Catastrophist. That is streaming through July 11th. And then you want to check out 57 Chevy, starring Rick Salinas. This is going to be a really funny, great show. We are actually streaming that as well. We have a big opening screening coming up next month. That will start streaming on July 26th. So make sure you check that out, and we will have our season announcement coming at you pretty soon. It is really exciting to get back to doing live theater. The anticipation is there. So we just really look to get back to seeing you all in person at the theater. And that is what is going on. So please make sure you visit sdrep.org, theoldglobe.org, and lajollaplayhouse.org to see what we got going on for you in person. Now, let's go ahead and get into talk to our guests for tonight. We have some spectacular guests for you. One is a returning guest. He's been here before, but we're going to bring him back now to talk a little bit more about himself. And so we want to go ahead and bring our guest on screen. Please welcome multi-talented actress, and she's a recipient of the True West Award for her impactful work in the arts and education. She's an arts educator, Alasia Gray. And please welcome award-winning portrait event photographer and mentor at Peter Hurley's Headshot Crew, Mr. Rich Soble. Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hey, y'all.
Good.
How's it going?
Hey.
Thank y'all for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking to y'all and hear about what y'all are doing. Thank you so
Happy to
much.
be here.
Y'all doing all right today?
Yep.
I'm doing great, mother.
Fresh off Juneteenth weekend, it still feels like a celebration.
It's always a celebration. Let's be real.
That's right.
It's true.
Well, look, we got a little tradition we do. We always give the little brief introduction, but we like to hear from you yourselves and like introduce yourselves to our audience a little bit in your own words. Tell them how you got into this performing arts world that we all seem to just can't find our way out of and love so much. And let us know how you got into this and how you got to this point. And you know what? We'll start with you today, Alasia. Let's go ahead and hear from you about how you got into this world and what you're doing.
All right. Well, yeah. So like you said, I'm an actress and arts educator. I started performing when I was really young. I just knew this is the world I wanted to be in. I'm an only child, so that always played a part. You know, we always have to be creative as only children. So lots of time spent, you know, recording TV shows and learning all the lines and then playing it back on the VHS and, you know, doing all that. So I kind of just stayed with it. Through high school, college, and then from the educator standpoint, it's crazy. I think that kind of found me in some weird way. I never anticipated educating young people, especially by way of arts. And but I was always an advocate for young people, even as a young person, doing Big Brothers Big Sisters, all kinds of like youth advocacy programs, and volunteer and things like that as a high schooler, middle schooler. And so it just kind of made sense that it would evolve to, okay, now I'm going to use my practice and my art to impact kids and change the world. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I'm at.
How about you, Rich? What's your pathway into this world?
I love that, Alasia. That's wonderful. I was pulled into theater my sophomore year of high school when I saw a staged adaptation of C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. And a couple of my friends were in it. And I remember the exact moment where I said, I have to be a part of this. They were all coming out of a doorway, associated a doorway to hell. It was in the middle of the stage. And the stage is flat and solid. And they're all coming up out of this door. I'm like, how are they doing that? Like, what is this magic? That is amazing. I need to go be a part of that. And I signed up for the drama club right after that. And I was working on the fall musical, doing props like immediately after that. And it sort of snowballed and spiraled. And all through high school, I did lighting, I did sound. I really loved that we got to get out of class. Like they call you to the theater. Oh, Rich, come to the theater. We have a problem with that. I'm like, oh, nope, I guess I got to go. Bye. And it just sort of carried over into college. I changed my major to theater sophomore year. And it blew up into a bunch of different opportunities for me. And I married my love of photography with my love of theater right after I graduated, when a good friend of mine asked if I could do some headshots for him. And I said, and I quote, that's just pictures of your face, right? How hard could that be? And he used those to audition for graduate school, and he got in. And I said, well, maybe I have something here. And throughout the years, I've been doing, headshots for actors and production photography, really with every ounce of energy, width, and breadth that I have. And every moment that I can spend in a theater, on stage, around the stage, I feel is a great blessing. So I'm happy to be here with y'all. Happy to be within earshot and driving distance of so many great theaters, and feeling really blessed.
That's right. That's right. I want to, me and Alasia met, we met in an affinity space that Jamal Chaston put together, the Conversation from the Breath Project. And I think that's when we first met. And you were talking about the work you were doing in Denver. And I want to really just get straight into it. Like, you wrote a really great article on April 12th, like, why are there no great kids of color in the performing arts? Can you talk to us a little bit about what inspires you to write that, and what you saw that inspires you to write that article?
Yeah, absolutely. And even before that, I'll kind of talk about what I had created for the Breath Project, because they kind of fit in together as far as this like autoethnographic body of work that I didn't think I needed to be doing, but it was like, these experiences are happening to you and you've seen them, write about it. So with the Breath Project, really quickly, I wrote a piece called Acting While Black, and it was literally, I was at a point in like August, I think is when I created it, where I was just burnt out from the arts. It was the first year where I was like, I don't even want to be an artist anymore. And I hate to even say that, but because of racism, like the most racism I've ever endured in my entire life has been in the arts. And so I wrote this piece, Acting While Black, performed it, and it became one of the national finalists for the Breath Project and was streamed in their virtual festival. And it just chronicled some of my experiences with some crazy things that have been said, and that also translates into things that I've seen as an educator, including leaving the largest arts organization in our state because of systemic racism stemming from things being said and done in our education department. And that is a zero tolerance policy for me. Like, as adults, we can navigate, ignorance and racism a little bit differently. It's still annoying, but like we have tools. We've been on the earth a little bit longer. But for students and young people, especially those who are just coming to a space to learn about the arts and fall in love with the arts, and then to be met with racism, just frankly, and then never want to come back, never want to even dip their toe back in it because of it, is just, it's such a detriment. It's very unfortunate. And so with this essay, I really wanted to highlight some of the experiences that I know I've had to help advocate for with my students, things that they've shared with me, things that I've personally seen as an educator. Again, myself also personally having to be, leave a place that I worked for a very long time because of trying to speak up as the only Black educator, like, hey, this is why this is problematic. And then again, the loss for you as an organization, when I leave, those students are leaving. They were already going to leave, but they're really not coming back. And what does that do to the whole culture of the organization and the space? And do you even care? Most of them, they don't. Like, they're not even, it's whatever. So in the essay, I just talk about, the importance of not only diversity in your educators, diversity in material for young people, but also, those utopian spaces for young people of color to be able to come together. And I've been fortunate to teach in a lot of those capacities where it's, primarily kids of color being able to explore and not feel like what they're saying is abstract concepts, or having well-meaning observations about their hair or their last name or their accent. Like, we can just be in space and like just be, without also having to navigate peers and also white educators' lack of cultural competency. So it was just like a kind of a mix of a lot of things in the essay, but yes, definitely primarily exploring, those situations for kiddos, and then as educators as well.
That's fantastic. That article resonated so much with me. And And it actually made me really, really grateful for a lot of the work that we're doing with young people at La Jolla Playhouse, just because the way that you were talking about when we were young, there weren't these opportunities. And even so, they certainly weren't going into the schools that didn't have money to pay for these programs. And so now the fact that we have this learning and I mean, it's always been at the core of the Playhouse, but now I'm more deeply involved with what we're doing and have a little bit more knowledge of it. But it made me really, really proud of the work that we're doing to hopefully be bridging that gap in a very, very real way.
That's great. I love to hear that.
Yeah. And Rich, I'm really curious. You talked about the intersection, being able to have the intersection of your love of photography and theater created through headshots. But can you kind of talk a little bit deeper about that? Because obviously those are things that are both very passionate for you. There is some crossover. Can you talk a little bit deeper about how those two things intersect for you?
You know, theater has an incredible ability to activate empathy in people. And it can happen when you're watching any kind of story, whether it's something that has something directly relatable for you, like on paper or not. Like, I remember the first time I saw, Julius Caesar. Like, let's talk about Brutus and Cassius, like talking behind Caesar's back. And like, I'm a kid, I'm like, well, that's not cool. That's like, Caesar's supposed to be their friend. They're talking about him behind their back. Like, that's not, and things that you resonate with that make you step outside of yourself a little bit and look maybe from a different perspective at someone else's experience, at someone else's humanity. And for me, photography is kind of the same thing. And in order to create images that what I would call are good, you have to be able to activate empathy within yourself, and you have to be able to activate it within the person that you're working with, and you have to create a real connection, right? And that real connection works in theater, and it works in creating whether it's still images or motion. When without it, the authenticity isn't there, and the work just isn't as good to me. So I draw on all the things that I learned, doing theater for the past 20 years, whenever I get somebody in front of the camera, because I know how it feels, to be put upon, to feel on the spot, and to feel like you're being watched and examined and studied from being on stage. And it's, I think it's really important to be able to meet people where they are, right? Whether you're bringing them into a theater space and performing a piece for them, or whether I'm bringing them into a studio space and trying to, create something with them. Like, we need to be able to meet each other halfway. And empathy is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I feel like there's something in both of your positions, both as a teaching artist and as a photographer, that it really is about making people feel comfortable where they're at in that moment. Because a lot of times with going into these schools or doing these programs, the students aren't always willing participants. A lot of times the teachers sign them up, and you have to make them feel comfortable. Similar with being in front of the camera, especially with theater artists, we're used to being big and and to capture that now, like, it's, we think that, performers just know how to do that, but it's very different. It comes to that kind of comfort level. So I just love for both of you just to talk a little bit about, I mean, you definitely just touched on it, Rich, but that kind of how you bring that guard down, making people comfortable, and similar for you, Alasia, going into working with young people and getting past that too cool for school, or no, theater's dumb, or whatever. How do you get past some of these barriers that people come into your worlds with?
I love that question, so I teach in a lot of different capacities. So I direct children's theater, so youth performers. I teach for a bunch of org theaters. I run my own programming where I have kids that have no experience at all to kids who have professional on camera and theater credits. And it just runs the gamut, and you have to, like you said, meet students where they're at, especially students and young people. And also not take things personal. I'm definitely an educator that has a lot of energy, and like, I'm just fun, I'm just gonna put that out there. And so if there's a kid who's resistant to something, let's talk about it. Why do you feel like this is whack in this moment? Okay, so what would make it better? Like, I'm always not thinking like, oh, they think I'm a terrible teacher and they just hate theater. it's not about that. They could be going through something completely different. Their PlayStation might have just got taken away last night and the phone, and they just in a whole mood, right? So like you really can't take it personal. So there's that. And then like you said though, just really again, meeting students where they're at, especially when it's in a group. Because sometimes that's hard when you got like 20 students and you're really trying to engage each one of them. But you have to be an educator who wants to do that. Because so often I feel like, and even kind of where I wrote the essay, so often adults are talking at young people and not talking with them and being in conversation and in community and holding space. And so I think if that's how you set up the culture of your classroom, the culture of your rehearsal room, whatever that is, the students are gonna start getting comfortable anyway. Like it's just naturally gonna happen. And then you have to be consistent in that too. You gotta be consistent in how you're showing up for them, and then they will be consistent in how they're showing up with you. And usually by the end of it, they're like, oh yeah, that was fun. Like, I don't know that I've ever had an experience where a student still was like, nah, I'm not really messing with theater. Like from pre-K to high school, and that's the range I teach, they're all always like, okay, that was pretty lit. And I'm like, I know, right? I know. So I be free and go change the world.
I love that. And Alasia, I bet, and this is how I feel, whether I'm doing photos just in my studio or whether I'm on set or, you know, at a production shoot or anything like that is, but breaking down those barriers, the easiest way for me anyway, is treating people like their experience, their point of view and their feelings are valid, whatever, you know, level they're at. So I'm sure, especially with students when they're at a young age, if you're talking at them like an adult, like you're not doing that. But when you approach them and you say, hey, let's have a talk about this, then you're validating their experience, you're validating their point of view, and they suddenly feel like they're a part of what it is that you're doing. And it makes it easier for them to access that.
Definitely.
You, Alasia, and I know, and Rich, I want to talk to you about this too. There's a part in that article you wrote about hurdles in predominantly white spaces. Can you expand on that a little bit? Like, just what, like, we all know we all got them, but we got to communicate this stuff to people so that they understand. You know,
Yeah.
can you expand a little bit on that, on what you see as hurdles in these predominantly white spaces?
What are not hurdles in these spaces? Like, oh my, I feel like every theater situation, and I hate to say this, but I'm just keeping it real, and even just up, like literally things happening this year as well. It's like, there's always this roadblock in trying to have conversations about maybe hurdles or things that are problematic. And you all, you know this, I'm sure very well, no matter how you frame it, no matter how much you don't roll your neck and you talk in a higher tone so that they will feel comfortable, it's still, sorry audience, but that white fragility is still always present and it's always a thing. And it's like the lack of overall awareness around it that I think is what perpetuates the hurdle. So hurdles meaning, you know, oftentimes having to be the only person of color in a room or the handful of people of color in a space. I know as an educator so many times, and this happened recent, again, where I'm trying to advocate for students in a space, and maybe I'm trying to tell the organization like, hey, maybe some of the framework you're trying to work with, you can adjust in this area. Or if we're doing Zoom stuff and you're trying to do this for middle schoolers who aren't theater kids, but you're having me come in and do a spoken word unit, and you expect them to write it, you expect them to memorize it, perform it, film it, they don't even know theater at this point. So like, maybe we just only have them write. Like, let's maybe just take some of that pressure off of these middle schoolers and do that, right? So things like that, where I would, you know, I try to bring things up to organizations and they just like curve you, or it's that, you know, the constant gaslighting, and it's like you just don't know what you're talking about as a person of color. Like you just can't possibly help educate. And like, even with the former workplace that I talk about in the essay, like being told, well, you're not a resource to discuss race. Why am I not? I'm confused. Like I tour a show about race, like this is what I do, like, and I'm the one who's Black here, like I'm confused, right? So I just feel like there's so much of that, and like, again, I'm the type of person, I'm happy to have the conversations, especially like if I'm working in your space and I have to, you know, my face is out there as working for your space. Let's make sure it's a good space. Let's make sure it's not problematic. Let's talk through these things when they happen. I'm not going to just sit there and like, well, I'm just happy to be here and have this job. So I'm going to just, no, we need to talk about these things. And because of that, and I don't want to seem like a victim because it's not that. And I shouldn't have even said that, but it's like, I'm tired of it being at my expense of having to have the conversations and then they just go left. And I'm going to give a quick example and then I'm gonna stop talking because I've been going. But like same organization where I'm teaching this programming and I'm trying to have a debrief with this organization. For 5 months, I asked them, you know, over the course of 5 months, like, hey, I just want to talk through how that went from my perspective with the students, yada, yada. Kept swerving it. There were some other issues throughout the time, whatever. I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to go to their equity, diversity, inclusion team because like we're not seeing each other and they're not trying to hear what I'm trying to say. Fine, whatever. I go to their team, tell them what's kind of going on. And immediately they're like, oh no, we need to have a conversation. They got it. Like I didn't have to explain too much. Fast forward, because this literally just happened. This company writes a harm to healing letter. So I'm thinking, okay, they're trying to like do better, but I'm sure it was the equity, diversity, inclusion people who wrote it, not the actual people who did the harm, but all right, whatever. Looking through it, fine. There were still problems all up and down that as well. I'm thinking, you know what? I just want to, you know, wash my hands of it. I just want to leave the space. Like I will not be teaching here anymore. It's all good. Like I will not be working with you. It's fine. And then I find out weeks later, they use I don't know, like what would you call it? I don't know, like a summary of what happened, a report or something. They use that instance, unbeknownst to me, as a case study in a staff meeting. And I was like, you are continuing to be harmful, even in just doing that. Like we haven't even still had a discussion or conversation at this point. So long way of just saying, these are the examples where I'm saying like in every single space, there is something and there's just this continued contention, I guess you could say. It's just, so that's the hurdles, constant hurdles.
And you know, when we enter into a space that's predominantly white, we're automatically going to start doing extra emotional labor because we have a different set of expectations, or in our mind, a potential different set of expectations that are put upon us because we have to gauge like, all right, what kind of space is this? Like, are they used to having people like me around? Like, is it going to matter to them? Am I just going to be able to slide in seamlessly and just be me and it'll be all right? Or am I going to run into things like that? And, you know, I've been telling this to people over the past year since we've been having this conversation in, you know, so many different spaces. But like when you're Black, we don't always assume that every problem that happens to us, everything that's untoward, every negative experience is because of racism. But racism is on the list. And it has to be on the list because we have to protect ourselves, right? Like if somebody's terrible to you, you could be like, well, maybe they had a bad day, or maybe they're experiencing this, or maybe they're experiencing that, or maybe they're experiencing that. And that one on the list there at the bottom, maybe they're racist. Like it has to be a possibility because we have to protect ourselves as individuals. And it's having to think about that. Not every time, I'll be honest, because sometimes you just go and do and be and everything's fine. But as soon as something comes up and you have to have that thought, you're doing extra work that other people in the room don't have to do.
And they take for granted that we do that work. Because what I often have to explain is like, trust me, I don't want to be in conflict with you. So I've already had to think 10 times ahead before I have a conversation with you. And I have to choose which conversations I want to have with you. So again, especially when it comes to the young people and students, like we're going to have those conversations, like we just have to have it. But I've already rehearsed how I'm going to have this conversation with you. And just story of our life, you know, before 2020, with people being like, oh, they're using the Black card. We don't ever want to seem like we're using the Black card, right? So again, we've already thought about, was that race or was that, I always think of just how are you being as a considerate human being? Consideration is what I look at first. Then it's like, okay, now I'm seeing the implicit bias underneath that as well, because you didn't do that to so-and-so. And then you're tracking the rest of that. But they don't even think about, you know, just our skill set in having to do that before we even come to them to have a conversation.
Well, that's totally what I was thinking of when you said, I can't remember the exact word that you used, but the employer said that you aren't the expert or you aren't the authority on race in this moment. And I'm going, no, you are, because you've had to do that work. I don't think that people realize how common that like scan of the room, assess the room, how just commonplace that is now. And Rich, even when you said, we don't always do it. Sometimes we just get to be, I had a moment of, is that true? And it's like, yeah, but then there is always that moment where something happens where you go, oh shit, I didn't scan the room.
And it catches you off guard, right? It catches you off guard. You're like, I wasn't paying attention. I was slipping. And there it is.
Slipping. They caught me slipping.
Caught me slipping.
And now that I am assessing the room, I've gone through those 5 steps and yep, that's racist.
Yep.
And I probably would have been able to assess that quick, but people don't realize that emotional labor. People don't realize that in intentionality. I actually had I was an agent in Los Angeles, a theater agent in LA for a number of years. And the number of, the number of theater spaces I would go into, and I'm talking these giant CLOs that are these 500 seat theaters for this classic ass musical theater show that we're going to see. And it seas and seas and seas of white people. And my coworker at one point, I've told this story on We Are Listening before, where there was always his brother, Kevin. There was always his brother. He's tall too, so we'd always see each other. His partner was one of the musical theater actors, so we would always clock each other. All right, brother, I see you. And and then I would do the scan. Is there anybody else? Anybody else? And my coworker, she called me racist. She was like, that is racist that you are purposefully looking for other Black people in the room. And I'm going, no, it's not. It's safety. It's looking for somebody who I know is going to be a safe person, that I know I'm going to have something in common. I said, look, you look for somebody in Ohio State sweatshirt, and then you go, comrade. Same thing. We're looking for that thing that we know there is a safe place in this room. And Lord knows not all skin folk are kinfolk, but in that initial scan, I'm going to assume kinfolk until I'm told. But they don't know that we have to do that.
Yeah. Because they've never had to do that.
Stepping down because they don't have to do
that.
Well, or you get, go for it.
No, please, no, I'm stepping down.
I love it. No, because I love it. He keeps stepping up. No, because then I've had the opposite of that, where this don't say same workplace, but the one I talk about in my essay, where like there was some retaliation stuff going on as far as like my acting ops being affected at the same organization after speaking up in the education department. And like, I heard from several different colleagues of this very specific incident with the education director of like, oh no, she was gonna have you in the show and she said, you said no. And like all these lies that like never happened. We never had a conversation. When we decided to sit down with HR and we're kind of rehashing this, she has the nerve to assume that the only other Black person in the org who was like the associate artistic director at the time is the one who told me about, whatever circumstances around the issue. She's like, oh, well, it disappoints me that so-and-so would tell you about that. And I was like, well, actually, so-and-so didn't tell me about that. It was 4 other people. But I love that you just assumed it had to be the Black person. Like we were just in cahoots. And it got back to me through her. So they be tripping.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like assumption and expectation are probably one of the most harmful things that you can do towards another person's, like an attack on their identity. And that we as Black and brown and people of color, all people of color, working in predominantly white spaces, run into those assumptions and expectations just all the time, and it does harm to us because then we have to ask questions about ourselves. Do I fit into this space? Can I fit into this space? What do I have to do to fit into? And it's exhausting, y'all. Like it's just exhausting to have to think about all that all the time.
Well, and I imagine there's an added layer to it with both of you being business owners, being entrepreneurs. Like when we had Nicole Derner-Sessian on, who is the owner and founder of Firestarter Talent talent agency in Los Angeles. She was saying when she was first getting started, she actually didn't want people to know that she was a Black agent because she didn't want them to just pigeonhole her as representing only Black talent and whatnot. I mean, yes, she wanted to represent the Black talent, bring that, but also didn't want to be pigeonholed. And it took years, she said, to really shift and kind of take that, nah, this is who I am. And so I wondered that kind of showing up and that assessment that has to be done as entrepreneurs, as business owners coming into this space, is being a Black business owner something that you have to take into consideration as you're pitching yourself? Rich, I'm thinking about you as a headshot photographer, a wedding photographer, all of these spaces that exist for all people. But is there a moment of, oh well, he's a Black photographer? I know I have a predominantly white wedding. I'm
Yes.
gonna go with the are
Yes.
those
Oh,
things
yes.
that you have to deal with?
Yes. But and it goes both ways too. Like you said earlier, not all skin folk are kinfolk. I have to make sure my portfolio has a good amount of everybody, right? Because some skin folk will see that, well, he doesn't have enough brothers and sisters in there. Can he even photograph Black people? And it's like, come on now. Like a face is a face to me. Like, I don't like young, kids, old, I don't care. Like I work with everybody, and I want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable when they work with me too, right?
Yeah.
So I think about that with the work that I present as well. It's like I want to make sure that people that come into my studio know that they are represented in my work, and that I'll be able to work with them to get a look for them that's going to work for them, right? And be representative of who they are as a person, and representative of how they see themselves, in this skin or without the skin, like either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about for you?
I think it's twofold. And I kind of talk about this in the essay too, where I'm like, I think we need obviously utopian spaces for kids of color, but white kids also need educators of color, period. Because
Yes.
I don't know if I think I do give the examples in that essay, but also in Acting While Black, of like having kids ask me why my hands are two different colors, because they have never been in proximity to a Black person. That like, it was a genuine question from the second grader. And I'm like, oh my God. And I laughed at her because I just never was asked that question before. And I was like, oh, this is just how people of color are made. And I had another kid of color in the class who was like, yeah, I look like that too. And that was a lovely teachable moment of like, yes. And so I'm a teacher for all kids. And I talk about that too I made history in Colorado playing Sleeping Beauty as a Black actress, and what that meant not only for Black kids, but also for white kids to see, my prince was white, an interracial couple. This is how the world works, to see adoption normalized, like just to have diversity holistically. And so when I'm teaching, even just in my programming, I don't pitch it as like, oh, I'm only accepting kids of color, because like that's actually not it at all. And I would rather have a diverse pool of students. But it also is beneficial though when, there's tons of kids of color who are like, hey, I want my kid to have a Black teacher. And I'm like, yo, I got you. And in the essay, I talk about that too, where that plays into access. If kids know I'm teaching at a specific organization, their parents will bring their kids to work with me at those organizations, or we can work one-on-one in my own programming. But I've had kids driving, 30, 40 minutes away from home to come take class with me, and they won't go somewhere else because they know I'm there and I'm that safe person. So I think, it really works twofold.
And kids being able to see people of every shade and every background in varying positions of authority when they're young. That was my experience growing up. I grew up in the Bay Area, and my school was multi-ethnic. My teachers were multi-ethnic. And so it's just normal for me to see people of all colors in all positions. And if kids don't get to see that, you have to assume that affects their development. But it reminded me of something totally hilarious that you said, Alasia, when you say they're asking about the two different colors of your hands. So I used to work for a studio photographer. I still do some work with this guy sometimes, so I won't say his name here, but he photographed a lot of newborns, a lot of couples with newborns and like toddlers and babies. And they'd come into the studio and he'd be like trying to get them to look at the camera. And I'd go back there behind him. I'd like start making faces and doing this. And they'd be like instantly like, what's going on back there? And the parents are always like, wow, he or she, they really like you. And I'm like, I know. And I look at the kid and go, am I your first Black person? I'm your first Black person, aren't I? Because they'd be so fixated. And the parents would have this mortified look. And I'm like, I'm just playing. I guess okay, don't feel bad. Like I'm just messing with you. But it's true.
So true.
It's true.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
But it's so important. It's
but
so
on
important.
on that issue, right? Like even as we, we're laughing about it, and as we took it there from you guys being entrepreneurs, and to bring it back into these spaces we're in, right? And first getting over the initial people who have just never been around or don't associate with or don't really have friends. Your barista's not your friend.
Nope. They may get your order right every time, but they are not your friend.
They don't count as your friend.
Right.
But as I've always, as I've been pointing out, and we've had episodes where we've had board members on, and we talk about how, like, Sheldon Epps was the one who illuminated us so much to this. Like, how can you expect what ends up on your stage to be true to diversity if at the top your board members have no friends that are other than themselves, not just in how they look, but even in their economic status? And then if you go from your board to your leadership, and your leadership is not diverse, and then your administrative is not diverse, how do you expect true diversity to make it down to the stage if it's not, if it's not starting at the top? How the hell is it going to get to the stage? It's not, because there's nobody from the top to make sure those sensibilities get carried all the way down. And then by the time it does get to the stage, there's no checks and balances all the way up and down the scope to make sure, things are this and that. And, we had a conversation, when we were our Black Voices reading series, and, Mud Row, spectacular play, and the prime thing was about home ownership. And there was a comment made like, oh, but we're just doing another play about who gets the house. I'm like, yeah, but the plays you've been doing about who gets the house, those plays have been centered around white people with money, and the house has always been there. It hasn't been centered around a group of people who have suffered through redlining, and now those families have been broken up, and now those neighborhoods are being gentrified, and people are coming in to buy the houses and convincing these people that they don't need to keep the houses. That's not your play you've been used to. That's not your situation. Like that's what makes it different about this play about the house, because it calls into a lot of issues that have been going on here. And so if no one's in the room to point that out, though, you know what I mean? If no one's in the room and say, well, this is why this is important, because now not only are you being exposed to Black people, now that you're exposed to Black people, now you got to realize we all ain't in the same boat. Now you got to realize we all don't think the same. Now you got to realize we don't all talk the same. We don't all come from the same front of the country. We don't all come from the same financial background. We all don't have this, that. So then that has to break down along all these lines. But like I said, if you don't have even nobody at the top who can, deal with that, then, and then like you said, we keep saying it, and it's so true. And we're going to see it being more true now as we're all in this moment looking for this representation. We're still going to see it all skin folk and kin folk, because now I'm trying to elucidate to people. I'm like, hey, white supremacy is not, it's not just operated and promoted by white people, right? Like there are people who have become used to this operating, and it's become beneficial for them. And so now there's going to be the Black guy who comes in the room to make sure all the white people know that this is okay, because I'm the Black guy who agrees with you. So I'm here to let you know that this is fine. You know what I'm saying?
And it's so interesting because I have to say it's such an interesting conversation too, because a lot of these conversations as far as how white supremacy exists within institutions, within organizations, is there's a lot of times I'm like, oh shit, that's my proximity to whiteness speaking. Like, because I am an institution girl. That's where I have my anyway. And so I do find myself, I'm not advocating these, I'm advocating for change 100%. But sometimes I'm like, okay, but deadlines are really good. Sometimes we have to stick to deadlines. I mean, no, it doesn't have to be right, but sometimes it's really good to have like clear set boundaries, right? And so I'm dealing with some of this stuff, but it was interesting because a friend of ours had posted on his Facebook page, I think maybe even just yesterday or this morning. It was, and he's definitely an ally and is always trying to post the right things. But it was a series of why, remember when you're so happy to go back to work, that might not be the case for your friends who are people of color. And I was reading these things, and a lot of it I agreed with, but I also was like, but I'm really ready to fucking go back to work. Like, yeah, I mean, yes, those things are true, but I'm ready. But I'm also an extrovert. I'm Black, but I'm also an extrovert. I'm also somebody who just is more productive in a collaborative environment where I can shoot ideas. No, I don't want people touching my hair. No, I don't want to deal with the microaggressions that I'm going to have to deal with when I get back. But I am excited to go back to work.
Mhm.
And I found myself trying to figure out how to say that, like, hey, but also remember your Black friends aren't a monolith, and like all of them might not feel the exact same way. But then I was like, but am I negating his allyship by doing that? Like, and so it's just such a hard space to navigate sometimes because I do teeter it. I am Black, but I'm also so many other things. I'm an artist and I'm a da-da-da. And so I don't know. It's such a hard place to navigate sometimes, especially in that kind of I don't know, knowing my own privilege, checking my own privilege, checking my proximity to whiteness, but also, is that a race thing? There's white people that don't want to go back to work because they're just really, really comfortable at home. I don't know. And so I've gone on a tangent and I don't know where I've gone.
I know where you are. I know where you are.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, as long as
I know exactly where you are.
as y'all are with me. So let's go.
Nuance is hard.
Yeah.
It is. If nuance was easy, we wouldn't have half the problems that we have in this society.
Yeah.
If people could implicitly understand that, yes, not all Black people love fried chicken. A lot of us do, but not all Black people love fried chicken. Not all Black people, like, right? That we've come from different backgrounds, varied experiences that are as vivid and valid as the next person's, right? Whether they're Black or not. All of us as human beings have an individual experience that shapes the way we feel about going back to work, that shapes the way that we feel when we read those lists that allies post, right? All those little experiences play into that. And it's going to be different for everybody. But that's hard. It's hard to understand that on a logical level. It's hard to understand that on an emotional level, especially when you're in the moment, right? So I don't blame, I can't put blame on a person that posts something like that has 5 or 6 things that I agree with or 1 or 2 that I don't, because that's humanity, right? Like, I'm not going to always 100% agree with everybody or 100% disagree with everybody. It's going to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And it's hard, right? Especially, Jacole, we've talked about this especially in the institutions right now, because, it's all about anti-racism training and this, that, then, and so this comes through. We're going to read this book by this guy. And he says this, that, and I got to be the one over here like, yeah, I don't agree with that. What?
And then they're like, what?
What?
But why?
Why? He's the Black guy writing about race.
But see, okay, I got to jump in.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Get in there, Laysia. Get in there.
There's so much I need to unpack in this moment, because I feel like, one, that's where I'm often in the issue. And I think it's different being an artist, where like independent contractor, right? So I'm working on show by show basis. I'm working on based on what I'm teaching for you or whatever that is. So it's easier for me sometimes to be like, I'm checked out and I'm done, and like I don't have to be in that space. Whereas I have, some other Black artists, like you're saying, Jacole, that are like, but no, I want to be there. I want to shake shit up and, be the change, and that is also valid. Both things are true. And I think my biggest issues, though, are those same people that are like, but I read the book, and they're people I've had long-standing relationships with, right? And so I'm like, but you saying you read the book and you're doing anti-racism and work and and equity, diversity, inclusion work, that's an invitation when you're saying you have been doing this work, that I can be honest and transparent when you maybe fall short of that. And again, we are all human. I'm not faulting you for that. And even all the theaters, nothing is going to happen overnight. All these theaters, just like the one trying to use my incident as a case study, thinking it just happens overnight, you're going to be in this for a good 5 years before you make long-lasting changes. We need yearly check-ins, because a couple months of, I read a book and we did these trainings does not solve anything. We've been Black our whole lives. So like, we've been navigating this. This is lifelong work. So there's that. But then I'm also always met with, I think, the psyche sometimes of these predominantly white institutions is that I'm a Black person and they make me feel this way. I've had someone literally say to me when I think I couldn't do a show because I had a death in the family, and they could easily have had an understudy, whatever, but they're like, oh, but like, I was doing 2 at one time, and I was able to do the other one because I was getting into town from the funeral at a certain time and not the other place. And they literally said to me, but we're paying you more than they are. Like, they made it about what they were paying me. And that, I don't know, that feels like slavery, but like, I do not like being talked to like that, for one. But I say all this to say, in a lot of these spaces, they think that a lot of us have this mentality of being just so happy to be here and so happy to have this job, and that I won't chuck the deuces and leave. And I find that often with a lot of spaces where there's quite a few places here in my state where I'm like, I will never work there again. And I'm actually okay with that. You may be wanting to come by and apologize and like, well, let's try to repair it. And I'm like, no, but I'm actually cool on you and I don't need to work for you. But unfortunately, they have sometimes this mentality that like, we're going to shut up and go along to get along. And yeah, that creates a whole other thing where I'm like, that is not good for my mental health to be working with you. So I'm not going to work with you. And I'm cool with that. I'd rather just not have a job. I'm cool with that. And one other thing I want to say to that point too, I think with 2020, and it goes to the educator point, I'm actually in a grad program in social and environmental arts, and it's led by Patrice Cullors, who's the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. Like that's all my faculty are artists of color. I've never had that in my life, to have all my teachers are just people of color. And so all we talk about is abolition, and obviously with everything that happened in 2020. So like even just the mindset, like there's a lot of white people just that just don't understand that for some of us, we're like, no, we're cool on you. Like we are cool with just being steeped in Blackness and going elsewhere and like not being confined to this like colonialist mindset. I don't know. So I'd be having to remind them of that too. Like, yeah, like I'm in class with Patrice. You think I got time for the shenanigans with you? I don't. And even before that, I still didn't. But like even more so, nah. So
Yes. Tell him.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Don't apologize.
No apologies.
That's what's up. Hey, Rich, I know you I really like the series you've done, the Black and White series that you've been doing with all of the different Black creatives and artists that you've been doing. And I know you have a project you're working on just with the John Lewis speech. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and why it was important for you to start working on that project and what that means to you?
Yeah, our dearly departed John Lewis. I feel like when we as Black people, and I don't want to speak for all Black people, I don't want to speak for anybody beyond myself, but I feel like this needs to be said. When we have these like icons of civil rights and these icons of social justice and we lose them, I feel like a lot of people feel like that the movement slows, right? When you have someone who's been doing the heavy lifting for so long, like when they pass, and this is part of it. This is part of life. And someone else and the rest of us have to sort of pick it up and keep it going. So yeah, John Lewis gave his final speech, not his final speech, but he wrote a final essay that was published the day of his funeral. And so I invited a few actors into the studio to film parts of that speech. I'm gonna sort of piece it together and create a video of it, video from that. But just sort of, it looks at just everything, like the full expanse of his experience as a leader in the civil rights movement and how that affects you as a person and how it affects the people around you. And that came right at a time when I was in the middle of, you brought up the project that I'm working on, which is just every time that I'm snapping this conversation, because it's 100% in line with the absolute ethos of this project. And all of you have all said one or two or three or four different things that I want to shine a light on for the rest of the world to see. We're not a monolith, that we come from varied experiences and points of view, that we'll sometimes not feel great about helping you do the work, that sometimes we will want to do the work, which is why I invite people into the studio and say, tell me what your Black experience has been. I don't want to put anything on anybody who comes and say, tell me about the time that somebody was really racist to you, or tell me about the time that this, or tell me the time that happened. Just tell me what it's been like for you. because it's been different for all of us. And highlighting that with that final essay is, and I'm not anywhere near done yet, but that'll be part of the culmination of it soon. It's just got dark in here. Woo, that's fun. I didn't mean that. I didn't make that happen. That was the sun. That was nice.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's such an excellent series. I love
Thank you.
every story that comes out of that. Yeah, it's so beautiful what you're doing there.
Yeah, it's been incredibly meaningful for me too, to be able to talk to people and, you know, see bits and pieces of that shared experience. Like, right, that's happened to me too, and I've experienced that as well. And to see that colored, no pun intended, from their point of view as well, right? To see the differences, the nuance that's within that.
what
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
what did you you know, and I'll start with you, Alasia. Like you said, we just got off of Juneteenth. How was Juneteenth for you in your area, arts wise? Like what did you see? What inspired you? Did you get a lift off of this last couple of weeks and seeing art, you know, especially because I know here in San Diego, especially, we'll talk about it, Rich, with the Black Artists Collective, but I mean, it's been that way, but this is the first time when like Juneteenth, like in the arts in San Diego, like it was all Juneteenth, like
Yeah.
for the arts community.
It was
in San Diego.
wild.
It was wild. I have never seen it
was
like that
wild.
ever before. It was crazy. How was it for you in Denver, where you're at?
Yeah, so oddly, Denver actually has one of the largest Juneteenth celebrations in the country. You wouldn't think that, but like in our neighborhood of 5 Points, such rich history. It was referred to as the Harlem of the West. All the jazz musicians would come through here. So we have a really rich history of Juneteenth here in this city. And I know, like, since I was 6 years old, I was stepping in the parades, and so it's very personal for me. And I just remember even, 2020 when people were getting woke and learning about Juneteenth, like, oh, and I'm like, we've been having Juneteenth for a minute in Colorado, come on out. But so over this weekend, yeah, I actually I was walking in the parade again for an organization that I'm on the startup team for, called Idea Stages. And so that's inclusivity, diversity, equity, access stages. And it's a grassroots organization that is all about, obviously, all of those things in the arts and holding organizations accountable and all that good stuff. So we had a nice little float, if you will, through the parade, signs, promoting Black artists and Black artistry. And yeah, it was great. And then of course, we just have like a huge music festival that spans for 2 days, really 3 days. And yeah, it was pretty great.
Nice,
Awesome.
nice. Rich, how was your experience, man? Because I haven't been able to talk to you. Like we haven't really been able to talk, because it's been all business, man, with the collective and trying to get, and the Rep, the Playhouse, and the Globe are all partners with the collective and the Juneteenth. Like I said, I've never seen Juneteenth take Front Street like that in San Diego, especially on the artist scene like it did. How was it? How was the experience for you? Because brother, you was putting in a lot of work the last month, man.
It felt really amazing. This is where I'll give all these institutions credit, is that a lot of them stepped up and made commitments and promises and kept them, which shouldn't be this huge thing, but it is a huge thing. I was telling Jacole when we jumped in, when it was before it was just the two of us, that like LJP jumped in and said, yeah, whatever you guys want to do, we're with you. Well, you can use the space. We'll pay you. We're like, what, really? Like, and you're still not sort of stepping lightly, because it's a little bit surprising still, right? And like, they're going to pay us to create this work, and let's use the space and promote it. And wow. And so the entire time I was a little bit amazed, but not at all surprised with the way that people were able to show up, because I like to give people the benefit of that and take them at their word. So when someone says, I'm going to do this, I'm like, all right, they're going to do it. And they did it. They really did. And the way it culminated in, Moxie stepping up to get the Mango Tree done with BB Mama, who's just an incredible solo. It's an incredible solo performance. If you missed it, whenever it comes back again, please go watch that. Mickey Vale's And We Dance that was supported by Diversionary, but also filmed at Moxie, and Get On Board, which is an original creation that could not have happened. It would not have happened without La Jolla Playhouse's support. And just seeing all of these artists come together because of this shared thing that we have to create original works and just be there to lift each other up and support each other was incredible. And the way that it culminated in, Artists for Black Lives on Juneteenth, and the way that it, which was led into by the Access Cement, the Globe as well, right across the park. It was overwhelming to see just so much Juneteenth all week long, everywhere, all over town. I'd never seen anything like it in this town. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved the most about it, that it was a partnership with so many of the theaters, but that's not what it was about. That it became a community-wide thing.
Right.
But no one theater was like, make sure my name is big, make sure,
Yep.
La Jolla Playhouse presents Get On Board by the, no.
I
it's
put
like,
it
no,
on there,
y'all
don't get me wrong.
I mean, I
But yeah,
appreciate that. We
that wasn't-
appreciate that.
That wasn't the message.
But
You're
it
right,
wasn't in the
absolutely right.
contract.
No, just kidding. But I just appreciated the way that this community came together.
Yeah.
With whatever resources they had, and each institution, is differently resourced. And I was glad we were able to all be good neighbors in that regard.
Yeah, New Village Arts too. They said, come on up. We could do a live opening ceremony on our outdoor stage, which we didn't even know if they even had. And like, yeah, come on up and do it. We're like, wow, it was. I'm still a little bit stunned that it was able to happen the way that it did, especially with all the uncertainty with the pandemic of whether or not, is this going to be live? Is it not going to be live? Or something's going to be virtual? Some things were a little bit of both. So it was wild. It's just wild. I'm still in a state of shock.
I'm feeling the bar being raised. I'm feeling the bar being raised for next year already.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the cool thing too about with the New Village Arts thing is that even though they had the flower fields, kind of the Juneteenth was kind of the thing that like pushed the flower fields out to people who didn't even know they were opening that venue up there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you guys are able to do kind of like a mini film festival in a way, and talking with John Brooks and everybody, and with the black film with the black filmmakers. Like it was really,
oh my God,
it was a really, really, really good week, man. And here's the thing that I really loved about it is that, if you remember, Jacole, our first episode that we did of this, when we just brought everybody together, and it was just kind of like a big it was just kind of like a big gripe session where everybody was just but
yeah, I wasn't even a host back then. I was just a panelist. I was just one of the black people in the community.
But I remember, going into that summer, that there was a thing developing that I'm glad kind of subsided, and that I saw culminate with this, was there was a kind of thing kind of going a little bit of where black people who did work for PWIs and those who didn't, there started being a little bit of animosity and headbutting there. Like there was a little bit coming. I was like, oh no, this can't work like this. And what I loved about this was that there was the combination of both to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
That's what I loved about it. It was like, okay, well, we keep saying we're not a monolith, right? Well, then we all going to get together and pull together and make this thing work in our respective positions to make this thing come together and celebrate this thing. And that's what happened. You know what I mean? And again, like you were saying, Rich, like shout out to everybody who stepped up to be a part of this Juneteenth thing and learn about this Juneteenth thing if they didn't know about it, and were willing to step up and lend support and put their necks out in a way, because as we're seeing in the news, man, people are suffering backlash from just admitting the truth.
It's hard to say that you don't know something, right? It's hard to say you don't know something because you feel a little bit embarrassed, because it feels like an attack on your identity. Like you have this whole view of yourself as a human being, and then someone comes along and says, hey, did you know about this thing? Did you know about the Tulsa Race Massacre? Did you know about Juneteenth? And you're like, no. And then you're like, I'm not as down as I thought I was. And you start hearing all this new information, right? And that's a challenge to you. So for people to be able to say, you know what, I didn't know that, but I'm here to learn now, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And a fault of our education system, not a personal problem, right?
Yes.
That's not, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
absolutely.
this all this conversation that's going on right now about critical race theory and whether or not critical race theory should be taught in schools. And it was, again, Facebook, a friend of mine had posted, you know, we've been talking about critical race theory for a really long time. We just didn't call it that. So why don't we just keep doing what we're doing? You guys get rid of critical race theory. Sure.
We'll keep
We
doing.
will never say those words together again.
We've
But we just
clearly
gonna
touched
keep
a
doing what
nerve.
we're doing. Exactly. We'll just call it something else. That's fine. But it's what we've been doing. But all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, people are trying to acknowledge that racism and white supremacy have problems and within our society. No, we gotta shut that down.
Wait, no, and not outside of February. No.
Right.
What do you
We
mean?
have 28 days to talk about this. And once that
Right.
time has
It's
passed,
March.
I know. I was thinking this morning, you know, because now it's on Today's Show. On Today's Show, they were like, well, this discussion on critical race theory and whether it should be taught in school. I'm like, if you don't want critical race theory taught in schools, you might be a racist. Let's just go ahead and say it. Like,
it's pretty simple.
And all the conversations that happened over this weekend, though, with that and the irony of like, you're gonna make this a federal holiday, but yet we get okay.
talk
That
about
part.
this federal holiday.
And
Let's
then
talk
somebody
about that.
said- Somebody said, I saw it, you might have seen it circulating too, where someone was like, I don't know if I feel right with white people having paid time off on Juneteenth. And I'm like, that's another thing. How are we going about this in the years to come? Are Mondays off, or like, what does that look like?
Well,
Thanks,
and if I'm
folks.
not mistaken, it's not a bank holiday. This shit ain't a federal holiday. That's an optional holiday, like Martin Luther King Day and Columbus Day. So folks can still opt out of Juneteenth if they would like to. So, okay, proclamation, okay. And is it just me or was it just white people that were like, Juneteenth is a federal holiday, y'all?
You're absolutely right, because there was a lot of Black people who were like, well, okay. And there were others who were like, yes. And there were others who were like, whatever, right?
Okay, so
Because
now you got me pulling my hair back. Now we
This has been a holiday. This has been a holiday.
we're in trouble
for me.
now.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's why I was like, I was one of those people who was like, okay,
Yeah.
we've been doing this already. Okay. I'm glad y'all jumped on board. We've been talking about this Juneteenth thing we've been doing this already. Like it's not. And,
Thanks for the rubber stamp there, guys.
and y'all lucky we didn't make you stick to the real of it because it's really a week.
Boom, there's that.
Right.
And also for some reparations for that
15th
week.
through 19th. We're not
What are
really
we
sure
actually
exactly when, so
doing?
it's this whole thing.
Yes.
the whole teen week.
Yeah.
And I love
We
the
just claimed the
conversation around
19th.
exactly. And I love the conversation around like not appropriating it. Like I was watching this Amanda Seals video. I love her. Oh my gosh, I swear by her. But just saying how like do not Cinco de Mayo. Do not Cinco de Mayo this holiday. We don't want to see nobody in Harriet Tubman wigs and
Ooh.
like she was saying, you know, and what else did she say? Like, or drink specials, unless you're a Black-owned business, then you can have the drink specials and all that. But we don't need to see, you know, you appropriating the culture and, you know, wearing the Frederick Douglass T-shirts.
Yeah, I better not see no mint juleps on special anywhere on Juneteenth. We're gonna have a problem.
Big sale on black-eyed peas.
Man.
So, you know, as we get ready to get close to winding things down, you know, everyone's because I don't know what's going on in Denver, Alasia. I know here, you know, we're basically in, you know, everybody's getting ready to open back up. So it's really like for us, it's kind of like you know, we're a little behind everybody else because we have construction going on here. So we'll probably be a month. Like I know most theaters here look like they're shooting for September to get back to live shows. I think we're jumping back in October once hopefully our construction and renovation is done. You know, how that goes with construction and all that good stuff. But what are your guys' thoughts and looking forward to seeing, you know, getting back to I mean, I know the virtual aspect of that's not going anywhere. That's here. It's just figuring out how to integrate that to be most beneficial for different organizations. It's going to look different for everybody. But what are you guys excited about as you know, theater gets ready to make that come back to do what we do live?
Good question. I feel like I'm still a little bit taking a step back, to be honest. I got really fortunate though, like all of COVID, to be working on projects. Like I just had one, I was a co-creator and performer on called Colorado 2020. And it was like a verbatim theater piece where we interviewed 50 different Coloradans from diverse backgrounds, different occupations, all that, to just talk about COVID, systemic racism. It was a 10-month project. We then hired actors to like actually, you know, say their words after we created a whole script. I, of course, advocated for kids to be on the project, so interviewed some of my students. They got to play themselves. And that just ended its run actually last month. So we were still doing, I feel like we were still doing things and making things work. And I also still tour a show about race called Black with a capital B with Curious Theater Company. And so we do virtual performances of that. And it's also streaming on demand right now too. So in some regard, I'm like, well, things have still just been going. And I know there's some theaters out here who have been doing like outdoor performances, and some have successfully reopened actually too with like limited capacity. But just as an artist, it's odd because I'm like, well, I'm just interested, like I need to finish my grad program and like wanting to continue to create work and content. But also I'm considering moving out back to Cali because I lived in LA for a little bit when I was a kid, or going to Atlanta. So, and I actually teach for the Alliance Theater, so I've been doing a lot of virtual work with them as well. So I'm more interested in like, I hate to say it, but what other places are doing and not necessarily Colorado, because I feel like they just done taken too much of my soul. So I'm excited to hear about like other places, like what you all are doing sounds amazing, and just being in spaces with more artists of color, to be honest. And so, yeah, I'm kind of just excited to forward plan what those spaces that are going to be safe spaces for me are going to be, that are maybe not where I'm at right now.
How about you, Rich?
Oh man, I'm getting phone calls about, you know, months out. Hey, we're having a production on this day. Can you come do production photos? And that was, you know, not a thing last year. So it's very exciting for me, and from places that I haven't worked at before. So there's definitely a part of that. We got to find us a Black photographer happening. I'm sure there's a part of that happening.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's a part of it. And you know what? I'm here for it. Get your money, Black man. I'm here for it. Okay, I'm here for it. But yeah, I've got stuff on the calendar up at Poway on Stage. I've been working with them actually for a number of years, and they got in touch with me last week because they're having concerts coming back up there. The Globe, both arts engagement and maybe some other things too. We'll see on the calendar in the future as well. And I'm ready, man. I'm ready to be in a theater when the lights go down and feel that hush and that energy as an audience starts to take a little trip together into a story that they don't know about. I'm beyond ready to feel that again. Yeah.
You know, this morning, myself and a couple members of the team, we had to go to the Museum of Photographic Arts in Balboa Park, and it was just, you know, just that feeling of being in another venue again, like planning an event and walking through their venue, and then even listening to their representative, just being like, just that talk again. Like, even though this is a museum, you know, this is what we all do. Like, we have patrons, we have members, we have donors, we have events, and just even just talking about, you know, what the struggles have been, and then what, you know, anticipating what it's going to be to when these things open fully back up and have people back in again, and we get back to doing what we do. But at the same time, I'm already seeing a lot of theaters who were doing, what did Jacole, what did Jeremy McQueen call it? Was it performative solidarity?
Yeah.
Performative solidarity. And as I'm looking at line, I'm seeing theaters who are announcing their seasons or coming out with plays, and I'm just looking like, oh, they getting slaughtered in the comment section. Like, you all are just getting killed. But you could tell, because you could tell they were just checking the boxes during the summer, checking the boxes, oh, it's safe to come out again? We coming back and doing the same thing we was doing in 2019, y'all. What's up? And people are like,
The audiences are not having it. People are paying attention. Right.
And it comes with those same conversations too. I think that's why I'm like, I'm apprehensive, and I feel bad to not be the one who's like, I'm so excited for things to reopen, because I'm like, no, because it's still going to be the same some of that is, because it has to be like, that's just
Right.
reality, but it's still like, I'm not excited to keep being harmed, like,
Mhm.
I want to be in other
I
spaces.
feel that.
Well, and to that, Alasia, as you're considering your new market, I'm putting on my diplomatic hat now. As you're considering your new market, if I might do a push for San Diego, Atlanta and LA are great markets. But if I might do a push here, there are, as the executive director of the
Oh my
Performing
goodness.
Arts League, I can tell you that there are over 99 theaters within this community from south to east, north. Well, you can't go too far west because then you hit the ocean. Many of those theaters have really strong education and learning departments where they
Oh.
constantly are hiring teaching artists. I can say from La Jolla Playhouse, most of our teaching artists are people of color and are constantly employed. So if a sister's coming out trying to find a hustle, this might not be a bad community to consider.
I don't think I've ever heard
Oh
a better
my
ad for San Diego
Yeah, that was
Theater.
pretty good. That
Are
was
you
pretty good
are we
right
recording
there.
this? Is this
Yes, we
recorded?
are. We got
Recorded,
that.
right?
AJ got
Okay.
that. AJ got that. That's recorded.
And now I'm taking that hat off.
Listen, I got it written down. You will be getting an email, and let's
Please
chat. Let's
Yeah, no, for real though. Let's
Yeah.
chat. Like the second I started like doing that quick, like let me look at her website real. I'm like, oh, where's she at? Oh, Denver. Oh, she's out there with Idris Goodwin. No, we need her out here.
No, and it's
We
so-
need her here.
Idris is trying to keep me here. He's one of those that's like, man, just come be an artist in residency.
I'm
Colorado
here.
Springs. I'm like, Idris, we don't work together, and I gotta get out. I gotta get out. He's like, all right.
Now I'm about to tell him a little something. I'm about to tell him we got you.
Yes, please. I would be
love it.
honored. Oh my gosh.
Let's stay in touch for real. Please do email me. Let's find
Immediately
ways to
after
work
this
together.
call. Yep.
Perfect.
And that as we do get ready to wrap it up, that has been one of the beautiful things about this format. We've been able to contact and reach people that we probably wouldn't have if things hadn't been locked down. We've been able to reach other artists and creatives and administrators nationwide and develop relationships and networks that we probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for this. And so we are definitely looking for that to continue. As we get ready to close this down, I want to tell everybody, Rich mentioned her earlier, on July 8th in 2 weeks, Mickey Vale will be our guest here on We Are Listening. So
Don't miss
that
that.
is going to be a really spectacular conversation. So I would ask everybody to head on over to sdrep.org/listening to where you can sign up for the link, or you can watch again on Facebook Live. I do suggest that if you can sign up for the link, do that, because sometimes the connection with Facebook goes a little wonky and it doesn't go live, but you can check out all of our past episodes on the La Jolla Playhouse, the Old Globe, and San Diego Reps YouTube page. You can also catch the old episodes on our Facebook page, and you can listen in podcast form on San Diego Reps SoundCloud page and Spotify page. So if you don't want to watch, you can listen to the audio versions as well. Yes.
Hold on. I wanna end my portion with a shout out to Rich's dad coming in on the chat, dropping some
Right.
He says, remember that change is not an event, it's a journey, and we know this intimately. Also, I don't want anyone to be accepted or tolerated. We want and need to belong. Acceptance is being invited to the dance. Belong is being able to dance.
There you go.
Thank you, Richard Sudley.
I love that.
I love you, Dad. I
Aw.
love you, man. That's awesome.
That's what I'm talking about. Thanks for showing up, Dad.
He always shows
Rich.
up, that man.
Rich, Alasia, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will be in touch and keeping an eye on everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. We look forward to having y'all back. Jacole, as always, thank you for riding out this thing with me, even though it gets a little tricky with the technology stuff sometimes.
We're here.
It all works out in the end. Again, everybody, thank you very much. Come back and join us in 2 weeks when we have Mickey Vale that joins us. And please make sure you visit lajollaplayhouse.org, theoldglobe.org, and sdrep.org to check out everything that we are getting ready to do back on the live stage. The Globe's ahead of us. They already got their outside stage. The Globe's already doing stuff outside and everything. So make sure you check out what they're doing. But Rich, Alasia, again, thank you. Jacole, thank you.
Thank you.
The wizard behind the curtain, AJ, thank you for making sure this train stayed on the tracks. Thank you very much. And I thank all of you who have been watching live. We will catch you again in 2 weeks with Mickey Vale, and we are listening. Everybody have a good evening and have a spectacular weekend. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Much love, y'all.
Listening.
All right, y'all.
Yay.